Thank you, Mr. President. This House File 228 is not a concept that's new to the Senate. We have been working on language similar to this on and off for the last 5 years, and previously this session passed language out of the governor's Student First initiative that mirrors this language. What House File 228 does is it repeals school district voluntary diversity plans that were set in place in FY 2009, which disallows denial of open enrollment based on those plans. The bill also eliminates provisions directing the State Board of Education to adopt rules and guidelines for districts with voluntary diversity plans and removes requirements for the Department of Ed to provide technical assistance to school districts with voluntary diversity plans in place. I would note that these do not have anything to do with court-ordered diversity plans, which are not addressed in this at all. Iowa's never had a court-ordered diversity plan. These are all voluntary that were enacted in FY 2009. That concludes my opening comments on House File 228. There is an amendment.
There is an amendment. The chair recognizes the senator from Wayne, Senator Sinclair, for opening remarks for Amendment S3120.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Amendment S3120 amends this bill by making it effective upon enactment and also waives the open enrollment deadline for 1 year for this current year for districts that had voluntary diversity plans in place for the FY 2021 school year. That concludes my opening comments on the amendment.
Is there discussion on Amendment S3120? There being none, you're in order for closing comments.
Simply move the amendment.
The senator from Wayne, Senator Sinclair, moves adoption of S3120. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The ayes do have it. The amendment passes. We're back on House File 228. As amended. The senator from Story, Senator Cornbach, you're in order.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to this bill. We've had a lot of discussion this year about school choice. In fact, when you look at the numbers, there's actually a remarkably large amount of school choice. Open enrollment, about 30,000 students a year open enroll to a different district. That's about 6% of the school-age population. About 6.5% attend parochial or private school, about 34,000 students a year. We don't have a good figure on the number of homeschoolers this year because we no longer keep track of that, but a reasonable estimate would be about 2%. So you add that all up, we have between 14 and 15% of our school-age children choosing not to attend their local public school. That's 1 kid out of 7. 1 kid out of 7 chooses not to go to their local public school. Now, the true volume of school choice in this state is vastly greater than that because a lot of people choose to send their kids to the public school in their neighborhood, in their community. In the Ames district, if I had kids in the Ames district, I would be sending them to Ames High School, one of the best high schools in the state, one of the best high schools in the nation. Indeed, we have some of the best public schools in the country, at least in terms of graduation rate. We're a bit above 90%, one of the very top. So whether people choose to send their kids to their local public school or whether they choose to open enroll or to send to private school or to homeschool, there's a tremendous amount of school choice being exercised in this state. 1 kid out of 7 chooses not to go to the local public school. Now, in our earlier debate on other bills, We pointed this out on the voucher, on the charter bill. We pointed this out, that there was, and this particular bill was part of that larger bill. We pointed out that there was already quite a lot of school choice in Iowa. Well, the reply came back when this bill came up later, or maybe it was the same debate. The reply came back, well, not in these 5 districts that have diversity plans. Not in those 5 districts. No school choice. Well, I looked up the numbers, and the numbers don't support the assertion in that reply. The Des Moines Public Schools, in fiscal year 2015, 1,524 students open enrolled out. 1,500. Diversity order or no diversity order, 1,500 open enrolled out. Fiscal year 16, it was 1,412. Fiscal year 17, 1,420. Fiscal year 18, 1,467. Fiscal year 19, 1,445. Now, that's only one form of school choice within the Des Moines district. Des Moines district also allows students to transfer within the district to other schools. It's a large school district. There are lots of other schools within that district, public schools within that district. In fiscal year 19, 1,935 students transferred to other public schools within the district. In 2020, 1,636, 2021, 1,486. Put those two together, just take 1 year. Fiscal year 2019, open enrollment out of the Des Moines district, 1,445, transfers within the district, 1,935, grand total of 3,380 total students moving to other public schools inside or outside the district other than their local public school. 3,380. Total enrollment in Des Moines that year, 32,900. In other words, more than 10%. More than 10% in the Des Moines district, notwithstanding its diversity plan, chose to move to other public schools inside or outside the district and were allowed to do so. Davenport, another district with a diversity plan. Open enrollment out over the last 5 or 6 years, 500 to 600 per year. Within district transfers, 600 to 700 a year. So someplace between 11 and maybe 1,300 students in the Davenport district exercise their choice, going to other public schools in the district or outside the district, notwithstanding the diversity plan. Waterloo, open enrollment out has been between 300 and 400 for most of the last decade. You add in the other 2 districts, West Liberty, Postville, what you get is about 2,500 students open enrolling out, approved to open enroll out in these districts, notwithstanding their diversity plan. So when you actually look at the data, when you actually look at the numbers, what you see is even within these districts, there's a tremendous amount of choice being exercised. And again, that's not counting the choice of the people who like their local public school and send their kids right there in their own neighborhood. So to try to justify this bill that we have an inadequate amount of choice in these districts simply doesn't stand up to the facts. What these districts are trying to do is trying to preserve a modicum of mostly income and class diversity within the district so that students can get to know, get to learn about, get to identify with, make friends with, become involved with, share a community with kids that aren't exactly like themselves. Isn't that the way we ought to be building our society? Is trying to bring people together across income lines, across racial lines, across ethnic lines, across all of those lines that we seem to pound away at all the time to divide this country. It's time to put ourselves on a different path. It's time to put ourselves on a path of building unity in this country, building a better country, building a more just and humane society, emphasizing opportunity and emphasizing common traditions, common customs, yes, a common language. I voted for the last bill. It's time to bring us together. And that's what these districts are trying to do with their very modest diversity plans that do not preclude a substantial amount of parental choice. Thank you, Mr. President.
The chair recognizes the senator from Scott, Senator Knoyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm a former school board member in the Quad City area, and I live near Davenport schools, and I have seen the issues that Davenport has faced over the years. I think they've got a great superintendent in place. They've got a new school board in place, and I think they're doing a lot of good things to dig out of the hole that has been dug for them over the course of many, many years. With that said, the senator from Story brought up Davenport, and I am constantly amazed by the quality of the education I am seeing delivered in the Davenport School District. At Davenport West, they have an amazing industrial tech program. Kids go to Davenport West because they want to be part of that industrial tech program. It's absolutely incredible. They have 3 of the best industrial tech teachers, I would argue, in the entire state of Iowa. They have an incredible robotics program where the Combustible Lemons, their robotics team, won the world championship a couple of years ago. That's the world championship, Combustible Lemons from Davenport, Iowa. And that is something that we should all be proud of. Davenport North High School, you can graduate from Davenport North High School with a 2-year associate's degree. Imagine the opportunity that creates for the students that graduate with those credentials. All of the Davenport schools have an amazing fine arts program. I mean, my kids go to an orchestra program every summer that is led by the fine arts teachers that teach in Davenport schools. My oldest son played soccer with several kids that went to Davenport Central High School, and their parents absolutely swore by the quality of the education that was provided for their kids in Davenport schools. So yes, has Davenport had some issues with leadership in the last several years, couple decades? Yes. But the quality of education being delivered there is high, and there are a lot of opportunities afforded to those students. So parents want to send their kids to their neighborhood schools. They want to be able to let their kids walk down the street and go to the neighborhood school where they pay their property taxes. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't anybody want that? But they also have the choice, if maybe they want to go to North Scott to take part in the ag program, that they should be able to do that too. So they might want to go to Bettendorf to experience the block schedule that they have there. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why a student would want to go to another school district to fit the needs that they have to get the quality education that they deserve so that they are prepared for post-secondary success whenever they graduate from high school. Every parent wants that for their student. So, we can talk about what's happening with this diversity plan, but I think that there's a lot of positives for it, and I think there are absolutely a zillion reasons why somebody would want to stay in a school district like Davenport, and we want to continue to support the efforts to make, no matter where a child lives, make sure that they have the quality education that they deserve. Thank you, Mr. President.
Seeing no further discussion, the chair recognizes the senator from Wayne, Senator Sinclair, for final remarks on House File 228.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator from Story would have you believe that this bill isn't needed based on the data. He told us that we couldn't justify voting for this bill because of the data. But I want to talk to you about something that gets at some data that he didn't bring up. And that's about the 357 students that LSA included in their fiscal note who were denied open enrollment this past year in those 5 districts with voluntary diversity plans. And I want to camp on this for a moment, because these 357 students who were denied open enrollment are the reason we're doing this bill. Yes, they certainly allowed open enrollment for the vast majority of the students who requested it, but these 350 students have a purpose for their education. They have goals and desires that may or may not align with their home district, just as my colleague here to my right acknowledged. There are a lot of reasons that we might go to another district for an education, but let's talk about some of the reasons with these 357 students who requested that open enrollment out. Des Moines Public School, which is one of the 5 districts that have one of these voluntary diversity plans in place, and frankly, according to LSA, has denied the bulk of the open enrollment requests. I want to talk about them because they actually managed to not only deny open enrollment requests to families, but they also managed to divulge their personally identifying information and circumstances on their school's website. And that's egregious, but what it did was gave us a little bit of a snapshot into why this bill is so needed, that goes way, way, way beyond the numbers that Senator Quirmbach, that the senator from Story brought to us. I would just say that the worst example by far is from a student who requested open enrollment because she was raped by another student on campus, and she no longer feels safe at that district. The documents that I'm going to read from shortly detail requests for open enrollment based on harassment and bullying, problems in adjustment to a larger district. Families requested that they wanted open enrollment to deal with a child's health problems or cite family concerns such as changing jobs or other circumstances such as child care needs, and we all know that's an issue here in the state. And in each request, the district denied these open enrollments. I just want to read a few of them for you and then get at the heart of some of the problems with these denials, because it goes far deeper than just a denial of an open enrollment request. That frankly, there are 60,000 students affected by this bill, 357 of them who have been denied a request, but 60,000 students potentially affected by this. One student struggled in a larger school, had developed the habit of cutting himself in response to that. And his mom thought that a smaller class environment would be helpful. And while this seems like a logical reason why you might open enroll, that's not the biggest issue here. He was denied an open enrollment request because the administration said that the mom's assumption was not supported by any medical professional. She didn't get a doctor to say that the problem with her son cutting himself was because of the large class size. In another instance, mom marked harassment and severe health needs on the application. But each child had one unrelated incident last year, and there were no investigators of the incident, so they denied it. Let's talk about another student who was bullied, according to the mom, all throughout 4th and 5th grade. They state he was threatened. The therapist's notes state that a school change would be optimistic, but did not indicate that Des Moines Public School was unable to meet his needs. Harassment and bullying and threats, and denied. In another instance, a mom states that the school did not comply in a timely manner with his IEP. A failure of an IEP, which holds the weight of law, resulted in him needing summer school, in addition to bullying. In their response, they denied the open enrollment because, quote, the student was always the aggressor and never anything that would be considered pervasive harassment. I don't know if you're picking up a pattern here, but in all of these cases, the district is blame shifting to the child and the family. In another instance, per grandma, the student was pulled into a group chat where several girls were harassing the student. And per the principal in the denial, the issues were a result of the student refusing to remain in class, her inability to follow directions, and inappropriately engaging with her peers. The student was blamed by the administration in the denial. The student was blamed for being bullied in the denial. Let's talk about these 357 students who were denied open enrollment out, and let's talk about the reasons for this, and let's talk about the blame shifting that's occurring within the administration on each of these issues. We should all be shocked. I could read on. I've got pages. I've got dozens of pages, and they're all available to you all. I could continue to read, guys. Yeah, you know what? We should acknowledge that each of these districts works really hard to maintain a balance in their districts. But when we look at denials of bullying and harassment and failure of IEPs, failure to follow IEPs that result in lack of educational attainment, all of these should concern all of us. And I would challenge each and every one of you who are listening to me, if this was your child or your grandchild, what would you do? You might say, my colleague from Story, that there is no justification for voting for this bill. I challenge you, there is no justification for voting against this bill. Mr. President, I move that House File 228 as amended be read for the last time and placed upon its passage.
The senator from Wayne moves that House File 228 be read for the last time and placed on its passage. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Secretary will read.
The body voted to amend the bill title, and that amended bill title now reads as follows. House File 228, a bill for enacting voluntary diversity plans in the state's open enrollment law, including effective date provisions being enacted by the General Assembly State of Iowa.
The senator from Wayne moves that the reading thus far be considered the last reading of the bill. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Is the title agreed to? The title is agreed to. The question now is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of the passage of House File 228 will vote aye. Those opposed vote no. The Secretary will open the voting system and receive your vote. Senator Sweeney votes aye. Senator Edler votes aye. Has every senator voted? Every senator has voted. The Secretary will close the voting system. The Secretary will lock the voting system and record your votes. The Senate will pay attention to the result of the roll call. Those voting aye, 29, nay, 7.